screen isn't just all white out there?
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
I went with the beginner approach because I am not an advanced photographer. So, all right, we're recording. As long as we see that red light blinking and the counter, it means we're recording.
Perfect.
Right.
Thank you. I look forward to it.
Thank you.
All right.
This is going to be fantastic. Okay.
Now just watch your head getting in. You want to go left leg first, and then you kind of slide in like how I am here.
Okay. Just the seat itself can support your weight. Yep, perfect. So you gave you that little walkway to get in?
Yep.
I'm going to my phone over there.
Yeah, sure.
Not going to need that.
Yep.
I hope not.
All right.
I'm trying to land a big jet. Now grab this handle there. I want you to slide to the right. Pull yourself forward.
Okay.
Right there.
That's going to be a good spot.
Okay.
Lock it in there.
Should I do a free and clear check?
Yeah.
Let's go back a little bit.
Yeah. A little bit.
Yeah. And lose some weight.
With the yoke, do not turn it all the way because you can break the springs on it. So just turn a little bit. And Oscar will guide you how much you can turn.
Okay.
All right. I will check on you if I can at some point.
Sounds good.
Don't forget to breathe, Stephen. All right.
Breathe.
Have fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. So Steven, what do you think? It's a little different than a Cessna.
It's a lot different than a Cessna.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of the stuff in here is actually probably very similar to what you're used to. Have you done anything with glass cockpits, or has it all been steam gauges?
I have received training on a G1000 and a Cessna 182 for Civil Air Patrol.
Okay, so...
But just basic direct to cap grids. I have done cap grid mapping and using autopilot to follow that grid. But my main goals today, I mentioned it to him, I don't know if he shared it with you, was just takeoffs, climbs, descents, and landings, and really maximize hand flying.
Hand flying?
I want to do a lot of hand flying to get a feel for the airplane.
Okay. Then almost if you want to do better feel for like the flying and different speeds and that sort of stuff.
Yes.
I mean, I recommend maybe just doing like the first like simple flight over to Santa Maria just to get like a basic feel for it.
Okay.
But if you're really trying to spend as much time as you can just flying the plane around, I don't even know if we really want to go up to San Francisco, because that'd just be another straight and level and cruise sort of thing.
Okay.
But we'll see how you're feeling and what you're thinking when we get there.
Load me as you see fit.
All right.
I want to maximize the knowledge gained.
Perfect. So, right now we're on the runway here at LAX. So before we get started, though, we do have a little pre-departure safety briefing. Just sort of what it was in the waiver. Basically, it's not for any real flight training, so don't try to fly the 737 in real life. I don't think we've had anyone try to do that, but I just want to let you know. Outside, got that wraparound screen. It should hopefully give you a sense of motion while you're flying along. At any point gives you any motion sickness, please let me know. It does take a while to get out of that chair there. Then we don't want to clean up the paneling down there in front of you. No one's gotten that sick yet, though, so you should be good.
Okay.
We also have a gentle simulator because it is a replica, so just be nice and gentle here with all the switches and knobs. Don't have to yank on anything. There is real components out of the airplane. That's the chair you're sitting in, the yoke there in front of you, and the throttle quadrant. So all of this here in the middle, that is all real. Everything else, though, is just made it look like a jet. Final thing, this is for you to have fun, so if there's anything you want to do differently, just let me know. Only thing we're not going to be doing is we're not going to be flying it upside down or between buildings.
As expected.
But yeah, any normal airplane stuff is allowed. Alright, so if we look down here, these are our engine gauges.
Okay.
Alright, and we can see they're all at 0. So that means our engines are shut down, which is not very good if we want to go fly, right? So we're going to have to start the airplane. I'm sure you've read our 1,600-page manual on how to operate the aircraft, right?
I have not looked at the POH. I was told that it wouldn't be worth my time at this point in the journey.
Oh yeah, there's just so much stuff in that thing. Now, how we start an airliner, it's kind of interesting. We actually use a baby jet engine to start the big jet engines. I don't know if you've heard of an auxiliary power unit yet in
Yes,
your
sir.
time? Yep.
It's commonly running when you're boarding and unboarding.
Yeah, exactly.
And it starts it with bleed air.
Exactly, yep. Perfect. So, right now you can even see we got the auxiliary power unit, we got the bleed air right here. This is where our pressurization, air conditioned pneumatics is on our plane here. Now, right now the air conditioners, have you heard of packs before?
I have not.
Alright, packs, they're a set of turbines that basically cool and heat up that air and runs the air conditioning. We turn those off, so they're no longer getting bleed air from the APU.
Okay.
Then I'll connect both sides of the system here with the isolation valve. Then you'd want to check to make sure you're getting pressure there, which we are, and now we can spool up the engines. If we left the packs on, there wouldn't be enough air pressure. So we come down here, we got our engine start panel. We got 2 start valves, we got 2 engines on the plane. So you can start your left engine first. Technically though, it doesn't really matter which one you do. You can start your left engine by pushing in, gently turn to the left to GRD ground. There you go. That'll lock into place there. And we only have enough air pressure for 1 engine at a time. So we head back down here to our engine display. You're going to see a bunch of gauges here start to move.
Is the brake on right now?
Yep, we got the parking brake on, which is this switch right here, and the red light means it's activated.
Okay, so
yeah, we're not gonna roll anywhere,
okay.
Especially at idle. But the N2 gauge, are you familiar with what the engine gauges are on this airplane?
I am not.
No. Are you familiar with how the jet engine sets up a little bit, how it works?
A little
bit.
So you're on the more side.
All right. So are you familiar that there's basically a core of the engine that spins really, really fast, that then spins an outer bit, which gives you all your thrust?
Yeah, the bypass gives you the majority of the thrust.
Yeah. That's right. So this is the core of the engine here, the N2. And it's spinning up fast enough that we can now add fuel to the core.
Okay.
So we're going to do that with this fuel lever here. Pull out of the nut. Now, N2, if that one's the core, then the outer portion, the low pressure section of the engine is going to be the N1 up here. So now that's starting to spool up as this picks up speed.
Okay.
So this is like the RPM gauge on your Cessna up here. This is where you're looking for all your power settings.
Okay.
Then you got this one in the Cessna, that's our EGT, exhaust gas temperature. We got a fuel flow gauge down here. We got oil pressure, oil temperature, oil quantity. And since we're a jet engine, we got a lot of rotating parts spinning really, really fast. We also have a vibration sensor there. We don't want to hit that. We don't want that to hit 3, or else we have a really bad time with that engine. But anyway, that's all starting up fine. Now,
thank you.
If we come over here, we're going to talk about our primary flight display. If you've flown a G1000, this is probably going to make a lot of sense to you. Airspeed, altitude, vertical speed there. You got your bank angle along the top. I'm pretty sure on the G1000 it's a brick like that as well.
I believe yeah.
You got your pitch ladder, 10 degrees nose down, 10 degrees nose up. The only difference is that, the G1000 is probably like a V shape for the wings, right?
It's a good question. I don't remember.
I think that's like a thing you can modify on this in the settings of the G1000, whether it shows an airplane symbol like this or whether it's a V shape. But basically, those are your wings.
Yeah.
These are your wings. The little square in the center is the nose.
Okay.
Now, have you ever used a flight director before? Have you seen like a pink crosshair? On the G1000, it would probably be a pink V shape.
It's the pink magenta along the V.
Yep. This is I forget. I think what the one you have on the G1000 is called a single Q flight director.
Okay.
This is a dual Q flight director. Now, it works similar way. So like how if like the flight director on your screen moves, you move with it and you try to match the airplane symbol up with it. It's the same thing here. But except it shows pitch and roll separately. So if we need to roll, the vertical line will go to the left, and then we just roll towards it, bringing it back into the crosshair, or back on the nose of the plane.
Okay.
If we need to pitch, then that line will move independently up or down, and we just pitch and raise the nose up or down if we need to keep the wings on top of it. So basically, if that goes left, you go left. Goes right, you go right. Down, you go down. If it goes up, you go up.
Okay.
And these are all moving however they want, and you're doing all sorts of adjustments here, trying to keep everything lined up on course.
I expect the first 10 seconds to be
Yep.
a learning experience.
Oh, certainly. Yeah, you can see the airspeed right here. This is 250, right? So we're already going way faster than the Cessna.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, one of my first questions, maybe it's too premature, was what's the target airspeed and VSI for the initial climb out?
Yeah, we don't have a VY or VX sort of like how you would think in a Cessna. That's for sure. And we'll talk more about takeoff speeds here in a little bit.
Okay.
But first, we want to start the number 2 engine, because that start valve popped out. It means your engine here on the left is up and running. So you start number 2 there, same as before.
The star valve popped out. Oh,
Yep.
So it went from ground to auto?
Yep, that means it's disconnected. That engine's self-sustaining.
So I push and turn to the left.
Exactly. And there we can see down here that the start valve is actually opened. And then how it works is the air doesn't actually go into the engine and spooling it up. It actually connects to a gearbox, and there's actually like a little pinwheel. And it spins that pinwheel real fast, which turns the transmission, which then goes up and rotates the core through the gear shaft.
Okay.
But you can see here that air is going basically into that engine. It's spooling it up, which is what we want. Motoring here, this is unique to our model of engine, the Leap 1B. This is a cool down process. It can take up to 90 seconds when it's real hot outside. But you can see it went away. And then we just gotta wait for that to hit 25%, and we're at the correct RPM to add fuel. So you can do that now. Number 2, you just pull out and up. Again, fuel flow should go up, temperature should go up. Now the temperature gauge is real important, because if you add fuel too soon to a jet engine, do you know what happens?
I've heard the phrases hot start and cold start.
Yep, you're going to have a hot start, and that engine is going to overheat really, really fast because there's not enough air going through it to cool it down, and it's going to melt everything inside that engine. You're going to have a $5 million day. So in real life, when you're starting this engine, besides watching the oil pressure, you know, like how you'd want to, you're making sure that temperature gauge doesn't go through that red line there. If it goes through that first red line, you're going to be having a real fun talk with management and the chief pilot and all of that.
That might be your final start at the time.
Yeah, it might be. So we want to avoid that. Now, if it ever looks like it's going to overheat, all you got to do is cut the fuel before it gets there.
Okay.
Now, while that's coming up here, we do have a little quiz for you, if you don't have any questions about the primary display.
So what I'm seeing down here is exactly what you showed on that.
Exactly.
We got ground speed showing here. Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
I think I'm okay. Is this angle of attack?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, most people don't have no idea what that one is, so that's very good.
Okay.
Now, if you look over here, we got a little bit more of a dynamic image going on here. So, can you tell what direction the airplane is currently traveling? Are you going left, right, upside down? Are you doing a barrel roll? What do you think?
Well, given that ground line, I think we're turning to the left.
Yep, perfect. You can see that left wing's down, right wing's up. You can see there in the bank angle you're doing about, I don't know, what, 18 degrees, 16 degrees, something like that of left turn. Now, see the nose on that flight director there, you're off course, correct?
Correct.
So, what do you want to do to get the plane back on that flight director?
Back pressure, pull up, because this is below the target box.
Oh, you're thinking about it backwards.
Oh.
Yep. So that's good that we caught that, because a lot of people, they look at the crosshair,
yeah,
and they think they're controlling the crosshair. You are not. You're controlling the airplane. So
I'm controlling the black wings.
Exactly, the black wings and the square.
Okay.
Because that's your nose. So you want to bring it right and down.
Okay.
And I get you back there. So wherever that crosshair goes is where you want to put the yoke. So if that's right and down from us, we want to go right and down with the yoke.
Okay. Thank you.
And then, final thing, I think you're going to get this. How fast, how high are you?
We're traveling at 195 airspeed and a ground speed of 200. And those are knots.
Yep, knots.
And how high am I? I'm currently flying at 2,880 feet and climbing at about 2,000 feet per minute, if I'm understanding that correctly.
Well, no, that's what's set as a target on our vertical speed in the autopilot, but the plane is actually climbing at 3,100 feet.
Okay.
So yeah, when you look at the actual vertical speed, it's kind of hard to use the line here itself. It'll show the actual number up here at the top, but it'll only show the number when you're going up or down faster than 400 feet a minute.
Okay.
In which case, then you just use the line and you got like the 500 foot per minute mark there, and that's not too bad. Also, you're going to see some green lines as well there on the airspeed and altitude. Do you know what those are? I think those are on the G1000 as well.
That is probably similar to the green arc on a round dial. That you're in an acceptable speed range if you see green.
Nope. What that is, see that there's like a little arrow on the top of it?
Oh, increased speed.
That means that our altitude is increasing and our airspeed is decreasing. And this just tells you where your airspeed and altitude are going to be in 10 seconds. So in 10 seconds, we're going to be down just above 180. In 10 seconds, we're going to be up at 3,200.
Okay.
So you can kind of use that as well to help you.
10-second estimate at the end of the green arrow.
And that's going to be very helpful because, again, everything happens really, really fast in this airplane.
Okay.
All right. So.
Man, I've heard that a lot today. Things happen fast.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when we come in and land, it's going to be like landing a Cessna on like a 10-foot wide runway. That's okay. So,
rock and roll.
like a postage stamp. Now, both start valves here popped out. Both engines are up and running. We're going to bring the air conditioning back to our passengers. That way, they stop bothering our flight attendants.
Yeah.
And then, of course, pressurization. We don't want anyone passing out there in cruise. And then in real life, you would take that, you would turn that APU bleed off, because if the engine spool up, it could send bleed air back up into the APU and blow it out.
So it's common for the cabin to be in the neighborhood of 5,000 to 8,000 feet?
Well, we usually leave it in automatic, and then based off of whatever cruise altitude is set here, the computer is automatically going to adjust the cabin altitude here between 0 and up to no more than 10,000 feet.
Okay.
Now, when you're up at 40,000 feet, yeah, it's probably going to be about 8,000. Because we don't want the differential pressure to exceed 9 psi, or else it go.
Yeah.
Right.
You have structural failure.
Yeah, we don't.
If not catastrophic, over a lifetime of that, it will.
Yeah, so yeah, we don't want that. But anyway, that's set there. Next, this is all of our electrical stuff. So you got things like your battery over here. But what we care about is our engine generators. You got your left engine generator, right engine generator, and you also got the auxiliary unit. Grab that switch here, pull it out down towards the window. It's on a spring, so it'll come back. Get number 2 there on the right. All right. See how the generator lights went out, which means they're now connected. The auxiliary unit is now off of our electrical bus. Have you ever seen the lights flicker in the cabin after pushing back from the gate?
I don't know. I don't think so. Oh yeah, I have.
Yep.
I have.
Yep.
Ding ding. Like
Yep.
it's commonly about the same time as a auditory warning.
Yep, exactly. That's what's happening there. They're transferring the power around, so the voltage drops for like a brief second there. You see the lights flicker a little bit. It's usually more noticeable when you're in the cockpit and all the greens kind of flicker a little bit in there. Now, you got your landing lights here. Those are these 2 switches. Just push those down. Not sure why, but we have a switch for each wing. So you got your left and right landing light there. Let everyone know we're taking off.
Yeah.
And then I also want to make sure everyone in the cabin is sitting down right. So bring that switch down to auto there. Yeah. Hopefully no one's standing up. And get up in the air here.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, we're going to head down here. This is our mode control panel. This is how we set up those flight directors and our autopilot. Flight director switch is right here. Bring it up to on. That'll activate it. I'll get my side up as well. See how the screen says FD at the top? That means it's activated. But you're not going to see the actual crosshair itself until you start rolling down the runway. Bring the big silver switch up to ATR. This is your auto throttle. Works like cruise control in your car. Are you familiar with this at all?
Very little.
Very little? All right. Well, there's a bunch of advanced features to it, but essentially it's going to maintain it's going to try to maintain your airspeed within reason. Like if you're going 90 degrees up, it's not going to hold your airspeed. But if you're going up, it's going to add power. If you start going down, it's going to take power away. So it makes your life a little bit easier. Speed here for takeoff is going to be 142 knots. And I'll show you where that number comes from in a moment. Next, I'll be pushing and click on VNAV and LNAV along the top there. That'll be your vertical and your lateral navigation. Cruise altitude, we're going to go up to 20,000 feet. So this is just making sure you're following the GPS flight plan, which you can see we have set up there. And we can talk more about that if you'd like. But really, in real life, what we care about, see this box here at the top? That is our flight mode annunciator. So that where it basically shows all of the autopilot modes that we have engaged. Now, see how they're all in white? That means they're armed. If they turn to green, like how it is on this display here, that means that they're actually active. So we got the auto throttle arm, we got the lateral navigation arm, VNAV arm. So when you take off, you'll see those all go to green, and we should lock onto our GPS and make it over to Santa Maria.
Okay.
And then also, speaking of auto throttle too, if you want to, we can do manual throttles, but I highly recommend leaving auto in the beginning. Just get comfortable kind of keeping the plane on course.
Fair.
Because this really does make it a whole lot more difficult to fly.
Fair.
Now, we're going to head down here. Final thing, we got our flight and managed computer. This is a pretty complicated system. We're probably not going to be able to get too much into this while you're here, but basically we put all your performance data into this. We got your weights, your routes, all that sort of stuff. You can see we're just under 130,000 pounds, which is a medium-ish weight for this airplane. And then up here, we got a flap setting, flaps 5. I'm sure you're familiar, of course, with flaps since you're going through flight training, right? So you got your flaps handle right over here. If you forget, it's even written there on the top. Now lift that straight up, drop it down to number 5. This is 5 degrees of flaps. So you can see we got a lot of flap settings on this plane right here, a whole bunch of them. But 5 is what we want. We got a flap gauge right there. Because unlike a Cessna, you can't see the wings from the cockpit. So we want to make sure those are set so that we don't go into the ocean on the other side of that runway.
Agreed.
All right, so that's set there. Now, we're a little bit different than a Cessna. So like in a Cessna, right, once you hit, like 55, you rotate. If it's a little gusty out, maybe you wait to 60, right?
Fair.
So the takeoff speed in this plane is constantly changing based off of, the weights and the winds and the flap settings and all that sort of stuff. So what we do in this plane is we put the flap setting there into the computer. Then based off that weight, it's going to calculate 3 takeoff speeds for us. So we got V1, VR, and V2. The VR is like what you have in your Cessna. That's where we rotate at. We start pulling back to fly. Now, if you look at your airspeed cells, there's no V speeds there. That's just because we haven't confirmed any of this in. So just click the top one there, V1. That'll confirm it in. So once we hit 129, you can no longer stop because that's your abort speed. And you can see you got a little 129 now up under your speed indicator. We're going to do the same thing. We'll get VR down there, 131. That'll be your rotation speed. That's where we're going to start pulling back on the yoke to take off and fly. In this airplane, you're going to pull all the way back until the nose here comes up and touches the horizon out there in front of you. Once it comes up to the horizon, I want you to go back down to neutral. That way you don't stall the airplane.
Okay.
Once we're back here at neutral, look at that flight director there on your screen and do whatever you need to on the yoke here to keep yourself on course the best you can.
Is there a maximum pitch angle on rotation so I don't tail drag?
Yeah, that'd be 10 degrees, roughly speaking. It kind of depends on the model of 737, but roughly 10 degrees there for you. Now, to avoid the tail drag in the first place, don't rotate before VR or 131, or else you definitely will tail drag the plane. And then also, the pullback is sort of a 3 count, so like 1, 2, 3 kind of thing. If you do that, you're going to be up off the ground before the tail gets anywhere near the ground.
Okay.
And our final pitch up is going to be about 15 degrees.
Okay.
So we'll go all the way up there, pretty much to the top of our screens, is where it's going to eventually put you. No more than 15 degrees, or else we'll start losing a lot of airspeed there.
Okay.
Then you get V2 down there, 142. All right.
The meaning of V2 is?
Yep. That's our single engine climb out. So if we take off, lose an engine, just stay at that speed or faster, you'll climb out just fine, like nothing happened.
Okay.
That's what that one there's for. I'm not going to fail your engine on you. That'd be kind of mean since you've never flown a multi-engine jet before.
Yeah, true.
But,
very true.
So I don't want to do that on takeoff and have you fly off into the terminal. Now,
on that note, I'll show you a funny Santa Claus comic I have on my phone after the flight's done.
All right, yeah.
It'll make you laugh.
Definitely remind me. Now, we got everything set up, ready to go. So, Steven, really all we got to do is go over our flight controls. I know you're familiar with how they work. You've flown before. Just more getting a feel for the range of motion here. So just give it a left, right turn, kind of about that big. Feel how heavy it is.
So it's common in the Cessna just to fly one-handed.
Yes.
Is that true? Like, do you throttle guard in this with just one hand on the yoke like you do with Cessna, or do you have both hands on the yoke?
It's a little different. And it kind of depends on the SOP for the airline. Some airlines, what they'll do is they'll actually have both pilots' hands on the throttles until they hit V1, the abort speed, then they let go, and then they go dual hands for the takeoff until they hit autopilot at like 400,000 feet, something like that. Really, though, if you're hand flying with the yoke and doing the throttles like you would on approach, then you do have one hand on the yoke, one hand on the throttles.
What should I do?
Really, whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay.
You can kind of do the 3-finger thing, but that can get a little difficult, especially how heavy the controls are on this airplane.
Okay.
So you do want a little bit of a grip, but just don't death grip it, or else you get in the same problem of over controlling like you would in the Cessna.
Okay. So, and on the ground, I'm definitely not using my toe brakes, but just using rudder to steer.
Exactly.
And then once I get airborne, my understanding from my retired FedEx friend is the yaw dampener ensures I'm coordinated. I just fly with ailerons.
There it is.
Yaw dampener on.
Yep.
So I'm guessing on final approach, I will begin using some rudder, or will I just use aileron on final?
You will only need the rudder on final approach if there is a crosswind.
Do you have any winds for me today?
Not at the moment, but I can certainly add that in if you want to.
Well, let's wait and see how I do. We'll go from there.
All right. Maybe we'll save that for the second or third landing. But yeah, you'll definitely we'll talk about crosswinds if we get to that point.
Okay.
Now, and then of course you got your toe brakes on the top. I'll actually have you push your toe brakes down here. That way it'll actually turn off our parking brake, which you can see it just did down there. Okay. You can put your feet back on the floor. We're not going to roll forward and idle here.
Okay.
And then if you look outside, notice how it points a little bit to the left of the center. It feels like. Yeah, see how the kind of there's a little bit of a distortion due to the curvature of the screen?
I do, yeah.
All right. So what you want to do to keep yourself lined up is you actually want to kind of keep the corner of the dashboard here. You're either lined up on the center line is roughly about right. Kind of depends on your seating.
Or my right leg?
Yep, or your right leg, exactly. So
feels like my right leg would be a good guide.
Yeah, whichever one's better for you. Personally, I like to think about stomping my right foot on the end of the runway, and if I can do that, then it means I'm aligned. But again, whatever keeps going straight down that runway. Also, again, that rudder is going to get very touchy close to takeoff speed, so just be careful with that.
Okay.
All right, so are you ready to go? Do you have any questions about anything? No, it's a lot of stuff.
That is a lot of stuff. How much travel should I expect? And like, do you have any anecdotal perceptions about yoke and rudder travel in this versus a Cessna, or is it too different to compare?
With the weight and the amount that you kind of almost need to move the controls in this airplane, I mean, it really depends. But I feel like it almost feels almost like a Cessna, and like maybe not quite slow flight.
Yeah.
But something like that, where it's a little bit heavier and a little bit sloppier than you might think.
Okay. Okay.
It's definitely not an F-18, that's for sure. But
fair enough. Fair enough. I've also spent a couple hours in a Super Decathlon. I know it was touchier than a Cessna.
Oh yeah, it's definitely not going to be that touchy. That's for sure.
But I am fine with the auto throttle setup too. If you think that's a good initial setup, I'm good with that.
Yeah, I'll let you do auto